Masechta Sanhedrin Daf Chaf Amud Aleph. We're starting from the Mishnah. It's like 15 lines on the top. Zog the Mishnah, Meis loy meis. If one of the Kravim of the king passed away, so then the halacha is Eina Yoitz Me Pesach Platan Shaloi. The Melech is not allowed to leave his palace because it's degrading for him to go and be seen in front of the people by the Levaya. Rabbi Yehuda says, if he wants to follow the bed, he's allowed to follow the bed. The king lost one of his craven passed away. His immediate craven. He shouldn't leave his palace. But Rabbi Yehuda says if he wants, he could follow the bed. Very few. Yeah. And we're going to find, Rabbi Yehuda says, a king, first of all, that's a king. Kohen Gadol is allowed to go. A Nasi. A king not. But he says, but if he wants to go after the bed of the base, he could be malavim according to Rabbi Yehuda. Yoitze, shekem atzim David. We find by David HaMelech, Yotze Achmed Tosei Shel Avner. He went after the bed of Avner, who was a general, and he got killed by Yoav. Avner and Amasa were generals by Shaul HaMelech. And Shaul HaMelech had passed away, 5 years, they didn't appoint a king. Then, a half a year, they were trying to get Ish Baishis, the son of Shaul HaMelech, to become king. And after half a year, he was a king for 2 years. Then Avner decided, you know what, we should give the kingdom to David HaMelech. So Avner and Amasa came to give this greeting that we want to accept David HaMelech as a king. And Yoav killed Avner. He tricked him. He told him how to do chalitza without the hands. So he bent down and he killed him with a sword. Why? Yoav was right for that because Avner killed Yoav's brother, Osho. But we're going to learn about it soon. Yeah. So that was like it says.
So David didn't become a king right away?
No, 7.5 years. He was a king in Chevron, just in Chevron, but he didn't not over Klal Yisrael. Shenema, like it said, where do we see that David went after the Mita? Shenema, like it says in Shmuel, in the Navi Shmuel, Hamelech David Hilech Achre Amita, that David HaMelech went after the bed. Amru Loi, the Chacham said to Rabbi Yehuda, from there is that a king is allowed to leave his palace to go for a Levaya. No, the reason why David HaMelech went there, just the Baruyakin, to appease the people, because people were thinking he killed Avner. And Avner was coming for a good mission to make him as a king. And it was under his tzivur that he killed Avner, so people were fuming. But when he went out to be Malava the mace, that's how he calmed down to people to show he didn't give that tzivur. Yoav did it on his own. When they give the first suda after they cover the mace, people have to bring a suda for the first meal after they bury the mace to the Aved. So by that first meal, everybody sits on the ground to show that they're participating in the Avelos. But the king, sits on a couch. Different by a Kohen Gadol, we said he sits on a bench and everybody else sits on the floor. By Hamelech, he sits on a couch. So in the place where the minig is for the women to go out to be Malav in the mace, after the Mita, they go Taka only after the Mita, and it's a right minig because that the Anoshim they should go first, the women, and then the Anoshim should go after. The Anoshim should go first, and the women should go last. So the men shouldn't look at the women. And that minig where they have the women, they have the minig to go before the bed of the mace, and they have yitzes, they go. And this is also a right minig because there's a reason behind it. The reason because the first woman, she brought the Indian of Misa. She was the one that convinced Adam Arishan to eat from the pre of the Eitz Hadas. And because of that, she brought the Indian of Misa. So they were the first. So that's why they go out first. The men will look at the women. We say during Tsar, nobody's thinking about it. That's what he brings down.
The reason why the women can go in front. What's the reason?
Because during Tsar, I just said that. I just said that. Okay, good. Because during Tzad, they're not looking. Okay, Rabbi Yehuda says, Leilam Nashim Lifnei Amita. But I told you the real reason why they should go first, because of Chava, because of the Ma'asim Chava. Okay, Rabbi Yehuda Leilam Nashim.
The ladies are the first one to kill the people.
That's why we let the ladies go first. We open with the ladies first. Rabbi Yehuda says, Leilam Nashim Lifnei Amita. Really?
The entire it tells you what's going to be, and eventually that the women are going to be on
Oh, yeah.
If you look at the list based on the entire earth.
Yes. I heard
Where's
that.
the brachas? Why is the difference in the brachas?
Right.
Or what's the big kala?
Rabbi Yehuda Leilam Nashim Lifnei Amita. Really, the women go in front of the bed, and he says, Yotzes, and not in the back. She came at David, because we find by David, she Yotze Achamit Asher Avner. David went after the bed of Avner. So if David went after the bed of Avner, he didn't go between the women, he went between the men. So it's a that David was going between the men, not between the women. Chacham said, that's an ayah. That David went after the bed of Avner wasn't because it's the death for the men to go after the bed. That's not true. He went to appease the people with his spice, and he did appease them. First, he went between all the people. He went between the women to be mafais them, and then after he went between the women, he went between the men. So it could be, you never know, maybe the women were in the back, and then he went to the front and to the men. The whole nation, including the women, knew that day that the Melech didn't give the tzivui, the command to kill Avner. So the whole nation came to do by the Havra, the Sutz Havra by David Ksiv. It says in the Pasuk, Lahachrois, not Lahavrois, Lahachrois, to kill him. Ukarina, the reading is Lahavrois. We read it, it was a Sutz Havra. It's written Lahachrois to cut him off. Shabbatchila Lahachrois, to begin with, it's written Lahachrois. But we read it Lehavrois. Lechatchila, they wanted to cut off David and kill him. They'll have a save. And then at the end they saw that David didn't, it wasn't under his command. Lehavrois, they came from the Sutz Havra for that meal. Rabbi Yehuda said the name of Avner. Why was Avner punished? Because he should have been Meichel B'Shaul. When David HaMelech was running away from Shaul, he passed a city called Noiv. In that city there were many Kahanim. And they gave him to eat, and they gave him Gever, they gave him the ammunition. To David and his crowd. They didn't know that David was running away from Shaul. It wasn't publicized. So really he shouldn't have killed them. So Avner should have been Meichel. They don't know about it. Don't kill them. But like Micha, he didn't make a macha to Shaul HaMelech. That's why he was deserving to get killed. Avner. Avner, why was he punished? He wasn't. He was a good man. So the Gemara says because he should have been moicha. He should have protested to Shaul HaMelech. Shaul HaMelech killed out the whole city of Noiv because he said, "You guys are accomplices. You helped out David in the rebellion. You fed him and you gave him gever. You gave him fighting tools that they took out of the Beis Hamikdash and they gave it to them. What is this?" So Shaul killed out the whole thing. But Avner should have protested and said, don't do it. And that's why he was deserving of Misa. Rabbi Yitzchak says, Micha, he did. He did protest to Shaul HaMelech. And Shaul didn't listen to his teichacha. This machlekes, if he did protest or didn't, they learn out from the same pasuk. How? It says, Vayikoni HaMelech el Avner. The King David was like eulogizing for Avner that he was killed through the hand of Yoav. Avner should die like a worthless person. I mean, he wasn't a person that was convicted of anything, that his hands were tied and his feet should be chained. Why should he be killed like a worthless person? The one that says he didn't protest, this is how he learns the shot. In the pasuk, Yamus Avner, meaning what's the reason that Avner died? like a Russia that's Chai Misa, and he answered, Yadecha lo yasudis v'aglecha lo yinichun shtayim ugashu. You were a general. You were a person who could speak up and nothing would happen to you. And still, you didn't say anything. My time Eloi Machisa. Why didn't you make a protest about what he's doing to the city of Naiv? And because you didn't make a protest, you've died like a worthless person. The one that says he did protest, but Shaul didn't listen to his protest, is Mehoyim Asma. David was eulogizing, wondering, should Avner die like a worthless person? He wasn't a person in chains or tied up. Look, he behaved right. He told Shaul to stop it. He protested. My time, what's the reason? Why Taka did he die like a worthless person? According to the one that says he did protest, my time, why Taka did he get punished through the hands of Yep. Because he held up David HaMelech from becoming king. They waited 5 years after Shaul died. Nothing happened. But then it came to appoint a king. Avnei should have appointed right away David HaMelech. What did he do? He appointed Ish Beishas, the son of Shaul, as a king for 2.5 years. That delay that he caused to David HaMelech, that alone was deserving that he should get punished. We learned in the Mishnah when they come to the Sudas Havrah. The Sudas Havrah is that first Suda right after they bury the mace. Everybody else brings the food. So he sits on the dagish, the Melech sits on the dagish, and the rest of the people sit on the floor. In fact, my dagish, what is a dagish? It's a meat, a bed of mazel. That Bechlal, there's a medrash that says if your house is clean, they wish to get shit, pours brachis to a clean house. So a house that's messy, it doesn't. So what did they do? It's very hard to keep a whole house clean. So they had this bed. The king had this bed that kept, nothing could go on it. It was just a simon of mazel tov. Okay, so it was a simon for good mazel. Omer for mazel. He kept it clean. We don't want to use like kishu, but they said no, you keep it clean according to the medrash, whatever. The Rabbanim said to Ula, "Mi kemidi the ada eaten like a svine, but it doesn't make sense. Till now, he never sat on that couch. It was clean, perfect. He became a hovel. He sat down. What's going on? Now he's going to. What's the reason that we said he sat? That we say he sat on it on this bench? What's the kasha? He says this king never took food from other people to eat or to drink. The king has a chef in his own kitchen. He has everything being served from his own. As from Fernando mentioned, I mean, that's how the Sutzah Avrah does. And he does eat from other people. It's not unusual. Just like there's something unusual happening that day in the Tzadach Ilushtiya, so too, there's an unusual thing could happen that he sits on that bench. So this Shaila. So that's not a kasha. Ali kasha, only if you have a kasha or a kasha. This is the kasha. What's the kasha? It says, Dargosh, it says the Dargish was like a bed. You don't have to turn it over. Okay. Turn it up on the side.
Well, why does it turn around?
It'll be by your oven. You have to turn over all the bed and upside down.
The bed upside down? You can't sleep in the bed, say?
Not really. It says those times they would turn it upside down. But here the Zekri, they stood up this bed. In fact, if it's going to enter your mind after the Gata that it was a bed that was a simon for mazel for good to mazel. So it's the dagish is just like any other bed. Why don't you have to turn it over? But Tanya, we learned in the Brayso somebody who's an oval, right? That's mechuyev to turn over the beds. Not just the bed that he sleeps on does he have to turn over. All the beds in the house has to be turned over. So why didn't he have to turn over the house of a God? Why do you say he only has to turn it sideways? Why? You should have to turn it over. That's the kasha. What's the kasha? Maybe it's similar to the beds that's kelim. That's designated for kelim, not for sleeping at all. It's made to put kelim on it. Diktani, and where do we sit? We learned in the Brayso. Right. Oh, so it wasn't for sleeping. The time we learned in the Braisa. In Hoizim Yechedes Lekalim, if it was designated just to place Kalim on it and not to sleep on it, hey, that's only Chveisa. So what's that's couldn't have been the kasha. Says Gemara, okay, you're right. Elei kasha, hol kasha. Only if you want a kasha, this is the kasha, this is the kasha. I'm showing Ami Leima. Dargish Mata. The Dargish is Mata the Avel in the days of his Avelus Kabitin and who neifel me'elav. They untie. Mata means the Avel unties the mat that was tied to the frames of the bed. They would untie it, and the mat fall to the floor. Now, neifel me'elav will fall on its own. If you're going to say it's a meter that was made for mazel, go to mazel, is a kasher kabit mi'islei. What they had that ties with loops, and you untied it and it fell to the floor. If it was a mazel to bed, they did a fixed that you couldn't untie it. Doesn't make sense. How could you call it? So how could you say you untied it and you dropped it? In the king's palace, it couldn't have been such a bed that you untied it if it was made for special for good mazel. And that couldn't have been. Rather, when Rabban came from there to sell to Babel, Omar, he said like this: one of the Chacham said to me, Rav Tachlifa was his name. He was accustomed, he was constantly in the marketplace of the tanners, of those that deal with leather. And they said to him, my dagish, what is a dagish? So they told him, it's a mat, a leather mat, and they are connected through strings, the tzuis dakis, all around the frame. It was connected by the frame. And Rabbi Shimon Gamliel said the oval would untie those ties, those loops, till the mat fell on the floor. So this is a shinoi that the Melech did by the Sud Sabra. He wouldn't sit on the normal bed, rather he would sit on the mat itself that fell out. Okay, so we said that the dagish is what you could take it apart through opening up the loops from the loops that it was tied to the sideboards. To the sideboards. Amar Rabbi Yimi, Amar Rabbi Yechon. Rabbi Yimi said in the name of Rabbi Yechon, Dagish serugei mitoichei. Dagish serugei, the kshira, the way it was tied was mitoichei. That the yediyas of the strings of the leather mat was connected through it went. There was holes in the frame, and the strings went through the holes of the frame.
Okay.
And that's how it was. That's how it held.
How about this? It was a special bed then.
Now he's telling you what's the difference between a regular bed and the bed of the king. Mita seruga, but a normal mita is made al gaba. They had the strings, but it didn't go through. They didn't have holes in the frame. The string, they put it around the frame, and that's how they tied it.
It was a cheaper.
Yeah, we'll call it cheaper. Yes, Mesa. That's right, because here it's much more expensive. That holes in the frame is much more technical. Yeah. Mesa, in fact, the Gemara Akash in the Mishnah, it says Kli Eitz Me'amasai Mekablan Tuma, a Kli Eitz. At what step of the malacha does it become a keli that's Mekabel Tuma? So the Gemara answers, Hamita, a bed, V'arisa, and a crib. They're Mekabel Tuma only Mishayeshufrei dog. When you shine it, you take the skin of a fish and you rub it against the wall till it becomes a shine on the wood. So that's when it's Mekabel Tuma. In fact, the Gemara if a normal bed is the way it's done, is that there were strings and it went around the frame, who cares? You wouldn't even see the frame is shining. You had so many strings are wrapped around it. For what purpose did they have to shine the wood? You wouldn't even see it. Says both side the dagger, side the mita were both mita went through the frame. There were holes in the frame. But the rope that went into the holes of the frame itself, that was the king's type. And then you had a different, the cheaper one, that the Ritzuis, there were loops that they put around the they put into the holes, and then the string of the mat you would tie onto the loops itself. The first one was that the strings went straight into the frame. The second one was there were loops in the frame, and they tied it around the loops.
So it didn't go into the frame. So
It didn't go into the
you
frame.
can shine up the curtain, so you can shine it.
They both could shine, but the argument, the difference was, the king's bed, the strings of the mat went directly into the frame. The regular beds, there was loops, and they connected to the mat to those loops. Okay, that even Dagish, even a king's bed, has to be turned over. Meaning, even that bed that's made for cement top. Or the meaning that you have to untie, that the mat should fall to the floor. A bed that has two long poles in the middle of the bed, going all the way up because you want to turn it into a canopy. So you had a bed, so they had a pole here all the way up, and a pole in the middle of the table, and they would hang a canopy. They had a piece on the top. So there, you would have to stand it sideways because you couldn't turn it over. You turn it over, it's only 2 feet, long feet, and it'll fall sideways anyway. It says, okay, it says, Zoikva, you put it, you stand up sideways, and that's enough. Zok the Mishnah. The Melech would take the people out, according to the psak of a Sanhedrin of 71 Dayanim, they would be able to go fight. That means if they needed more land or more money, so that's a Mechamsa Shus, they would go out to fight to get more, so they would ask the Sanhedrin if you could do it.
I guess, who would have to get the merchandise?
They'll take from another country. They had to go to Muhammad because they needed more money. That would Melech allow them. Or pirates, and the Melech could break people's houses. What do they call it? Eminent domain. Eminent domain, that they can go through other people's houses to make a path for the king to go to his field, to his kramim, to his vineyards, like you had by Rubashkin. His bungalow colony, they put a highway through because eminent domain.
Where?
In his bungalow colony. Now you have a highway right in the middle. Lasses derech. So he says to make. He made money. So to make a path to go from his house to the field or to the vineyards. And Balabatim cannot be ma'akiv it. And to tell the king, we can't give you so much. Only a small little path for one person to go by. No, the king could demand. He wants a chavas, the whole thing. And when they win a Bechama, Beizazin, meaning the spoils of the Bechama, how does it work? When they bring it before the king. The king takes first the first part, and the best, the smetana, and the rest he lets the people divide. He takes his part, and then the rest they divide.
He doesn't have enough room now. He doesn't have enough place.
He needs more. Okay, so the Gemara is on the first din. What was the first din? It says you take out, the king could go to Muhammad for Muhammad's Shus, I'll pay the Sanhedrin of 71 Dayanim. In fact, we already learned this in the Mishnah on Beis Amud Aleph. Only to a Bezdin of 71. I mean, the Gemara, you're right. But I did the Tana Kol Mili de Melech, since now in this Mishnah we're learning all the laws of the king. So Tananami, so we repeated this din because we're talking about all the dinim of a melech. Everything that's mentioned in the Pashas Melech, it says that when Shmuel became older, the Yidden came and requested that we want to have a king to rule over us, and this Bakasha the Eibishter wasn't really happy with. But nevertheless, the Eibishter commanded Shmuel to fulfill their request. And what happened? So, of course, Shmuel had to warn them, and he says, listen, the king could do whatever he wants. He could put taxes, he could take away houses, he just warned them. Yeah, he told them the Pasha. Everything that says in the Pasha of the Melech, even, taking away houses and whatever, taxes, the Melech could act in that way even l'chatchila. Rava says the melech is not allowed to behave that way. This pasha that he can do whatever he wants is only to put a fear on the nation. Like it says in the pasuk, same tosim alach melech. He says a double lashon, place a king upon yourself. Why? Shetahei, the inyan of same tosim. Shetahei masa Allah, that the fear should be on you. Yeah, meaning that Shmuel Hanavi only said it today to warn them that you should know the fear of the king should be upon you. This is a machlekes of Rav and Shmuel. Was it because of fear or the melech could do this so lechatchila? Rabbi Yosei Kolam over Pashas HaMelech. Melech muter, but he's allowed to do it even lechatchila. Rabbi Yehuda says no, melech cannot do it. This pasha that the melech can do whatever he wants is only to place a fear on the people. Shenema same tosim alach melech. It says a double lashon. You should put a place of melech upon you. Shetei masay malacha, so that the fear of the king should be on you. Meaning that Shmuel only said it in order to put the fear of the king on the people, that they should listen to the king. So did Rabbi Yehuda say, Shalish mitzvahs nistavi Yisrael b'knisasam le'aretz. 3 mitzvahs the Yidden were commanded entering in Eretz Yisrael. Lahamid lahem melech, to establish a king. Ulahach nazar yishal Amalek, to get rid of the Amalek. Machitim ches Amalek. Believe Nislehem as Beis HaBchira, and to build a Beis HaMikdash in Yerushalayim. Rab Nahiroi argues about this pasha. Lay Nemra Pasha Zu about the Pashas HaMelech that he can do whatever he wants. It wasn't said as a mitzvah. It wasn't a mitzvah. David did it because he knew that they're going to complain. They're going to in the future complain. And that by David there was Golabe Yadul of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that Asidin, the Yidden in the future, the Yidden are going to complain. And like it says by Shmuel Aleph, the people said, no. We want a king upon ourselves. We want to be just like all the other nations. And that's why it says the Pasha HaMelech Shabbatayra to tell you that it's not a mitzvah. The Eibishter did it because he foresaw that you're not going to complain. So he said, do it. So never like it says in the Pasuk, V'amarta, you're going to say in the future, Sima alai melech. Place a king upon us like all the other nations. And the Eibishter told Shmuel, I give them the reshus to do so. If they want, let them place a melech. But be'emes, it's better that they shouldn't have requested to have a king. They should have betachin, they'll win the wars and everything. Tani, we learned in Abraisa, Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Yossi, Zekenim Shabbatei. He argues, he says, Zekenim Shabbatei, Kahegin Shalo. They asked, Mamish, Shem Shemayim. L'Shem Shemayim, they wanted a king. Shanama, like it says in the pasuk, "Yiskaptu kol ziknei Yisrael no lanu melech l'shavteinu." The bakasha was a good bakasha because they shouldn't be hefgaters. There should be a melech to judge, and there should be punishments. So I'm not saying that. Yeah, so I'm not saying that. If without a king, it will be a malka. Yeah, a revolution, right? But later on, the Abaratzim came Kilkalu. They ruined it. Never like it says in the pasuk. We want just like all the goyim. When they go out to Milchama, we want to have a king that will go and lead us to fight the enemies. That wasn't the right bakasha. Because for Milchamas, they should have the Tach and the Eibishter. Look, you want to tell you when you go to Abraisa. You look in Abraisa. Shalish mitzvahs nestav Yisrael b'knisas la'aretz. 3 mitzvahs the Yidden were commanded entering in Eretz Yisrael. Lavin lamelech, to establish a king. Yeah. Ulahachazar shal Amalek, to get rid of the children of Amalek. To live in Islam Beis HaBchira, and to build a Beis HaMikdash. I don't know which one is first. Which of the 3 mitzvahs are first? Says the Gemara, I'll answer you when it says in the pasuk, Ki yod al keis ka, means that a hand he'll place on the kisei ka, Mechama la'Hashem Amalek. And then will be Mechama la'Hashem Amalek. Medair l'dair. So from this that it says Yod al keis ka, that means to establish a king. The ain't kisei el melech. When it says kisei, it means only a king. Oh, and then it says after it, Milcham Hashem Amalek. Then comes Milcham Hashem Amalek. Shenema. Where do we see Kiseh means a king? Like it says, Vayesh Shlema Kiseh Hashem LaMelech. That so you see the Kiseh of Melech Yisrael is called Kiseh Hashem by Shlomo Melech. Hadayin and Yadeya im livnei Islam beis habchira tchila. Oy lachar zar shel Amalek tchila. Now we still don't know which one comes first: to build the Beis Hamikdash first, or to destroy the children of Amalek. Shoim avinich lahem lachem kol avechem. It says, and you should rest from all your enemies. V'haya amakim asher yivcha Hashem. So first he was magdim menucha from Amalek, from the enemies, and then it says building the Binya Abayis. So from this passage you see that you have to get rid of the Amalek because it says first that rest from the getting rid of the children of Amalek, and then and then it says also by David. It was when Melech David was sitting in his house, and Hashem already gave him menucha from his enemies. Uksiv, and then it says, the king David said to, Shlomo HaMelech said to Nasna David, hey no, anoichi yesh b'veis harazim, va'arin ha'elokim yesh b'ser chayiriyah. He was complaining, look, I'm sitting in a beautiful house, and where's the arin? Well, it's covering with a curtain. And so you see, David didn't request, it was David HaMelech. David didn't request to build the Beis Hamikdash only after he got rid of Amalek. After he got rid of Amalek, he was thinking, how can I sit in a palace while the Aron doesn't have its place? And that's when he built the Beis Hamikdash. Amen Shlokish. Shlokish says, V'tchila Malach Shleima al Yonim. At the beginning, Shlomo HaMelech ruled also on the Al Yonim over the Shadim. Shenever, like it says in the Pasuk, Yeshiv Shloima al Kiseh Hashem. Shlomo was sitting on the throne of Hashem. After he married the Goyish women, he had a Yerida. Malach ala tachtonim. He only removed. There was enough Jew, but he took Goyish women because that made him the connection to Parei, to Mitzrayim. That's when he married those daughters.
The kings in history always had, different countries.
So he married off he married into other countries' kings' daughters. Because of that, he lost the ruling over the Yonim. Shenever, like it says in the pasuk, he ruled over the whole world from Tivsach, which is on one end, and Ad Azah on the other end, or Tivsach and Azah were right next to each other, like we had by Achashverosh. How does it go? Yeah, but from Mehidu had Kush, so it was 2 days. Mehidu was one end, Kush on the other end, or Mehidu and Kush was next to each other, and he meant around the whole world. Here's you're going to say, Rav and Shmuel argue. One says that there were two ends of the world, and that's how he ruled the whole world, over the whole world. And one says, no, they were right next to each other. The cities were right next to each other. And just like he ruled on Tivsach, so he ruled over the whole world. Since many days went and the Shlomo HaMelech didn't do tshuva, then he only ruled over the Yidden. Shedema, like it says in the pasuk, Ani Kaheles, which is a nickname for Shlomo HaMelech. Hayisi Melech al Yisrael. I was a king only over the Yidden.
How come they never should let him to be a melech altogether?
Wait, if the days passed and he still didn't do tshuva, Lo Melech al Yerushalayim. He only ruled over Yerushalayim. Shedema Divi Kaheles ben David HaMelech Yerushalayim. He only ruled over Yerushalayim. Labesayv. He still didn't do tshuva. Lo Melech al Mitaseh. He only ruled over his own bed. Shadam, like it says, Hinim Mitaseh Shloima, Shishim Gebeinim, So that's, he only ruled over his bed. Labesayv, he still didn't do tshuva. Lo Melech al Maklei. He only ruled over his stick. Meaning Ashmedai threw him out of the palace, and he was alone with a stick. Shadam, like it says in the pasuk, this is my schar for all my hard work. Rav and Shmuel, they both argue. Chadama Maklei, that it was only a stick that remained from his whole melucha. Chadama, the kavan is legunde, only a talis. Hada, oiloi hada. In fact, the Shlomo returned to
his wife over there.
Because Ashmedai transformed himself into looking like Shlomo HaMelech. We'll talk. This it's a whole passion. Says he wanted Hada Yaloi Hada. Did he return to the Melucha or not? Rav Shmuel Chadam Hada. One says that he returned to the Melucha. Chadam Yaloi Hada, and one says that Shlomo HaMelech did not return to the Melucha. Man Rav Yaloi Hada. The one that says that Shlomo didn't return to his Gedula Malach. Then Manasseh Hedjed. Then he became a simple person. Man Rav Hada. One that says he did return to the Melucha Malach. Then Manasseh Hedjed, then he became an ordinary person, and then a Melech, and then he became a Melech again. We learned in the Mishnah, Peiretz Lasli Derech, he can break people's houses to make himself a path to be able to go to his field. What do we call it again? Eminent domain. The Eitzes, the royal treasures that they captured goes to the king. But when it came to the rest of the spoils, they divided between half to the king and half to the rest of the people. The royal treasuries that they stole from the king's treasures, that goes to the king. And then all the spoils from everybody, they spoil the best of the smetna. And then the regular, they split half and half. I understand, that makes sense. The royal treasuries go to the king. That makes sense. That's the normal way. That's the derech eretz, that these eitzes should be given to the king that wins. How do we know about the other spoils that we should divide it half to the people, half to the king? So you want to see, because it says in the pasuk, that they anointed Shlomo HaMelech to become a Melech, Ulet Tzaddik, and they anointed Tzaddik to become a Kohen Gadol. Makish Nog Yid Lit We compared the Melech to the Kohen Gadol. Mak Tzaddik, just like Tzaddik, Melech, the Kohen Gadol Mechza, he took half of the Mechza Loi, half of the Lech Ma'apanim for himself, or Mechza Lechov, and the other half was divided between the Kohenim. Afanogit, so to a king, Mechza Loi, half of the pieces of the spoils of the war goes to him, and half goes to the people. Tzaddik Gufim and Allah. How do we know Tzaddik got half of the lechma upon him? So the Tanya we learned in the B'rais. Rabbi Yemer says the lechma upon him went to Ade, and then to the children, half to Aaron, half to Aaron, half to his children.